Yes, and welcome to Vasily's Garden, folks. It's another cold day here in summer Melbourne, Victoria. Well, it's not in Melbourne. Anyway, you know where I am. And I'm going to be talking about mulching because the last few days we actually got up to 35, 38 degrees almost. And it felt like even higher than that over here. So, and I needed to mulch earlier, but I haven't. And I've been doing it today, and I thought it's a good topic to share with you if you haven't done any mulching, or even if you have. Let's just talk a little bit about mulch, the benefits of it, and the type of mulch you can actually apply in your garden. And Vader's right on me here again, leaning on me for a scratch. Seriously? Look at this, look at this. All right, go away. It just leans on you. Anyway, what I use is a bean straw. I've used pea straw in the past, I've used lucerne, I've used sugar cane and things like that. I even use pine bark. Now, all of them are great in their own way. The aim with the mulch is so you can get that carbon back into the soil, create a blanket, so you protect the soil, the surface of the soil. Now, if we go down here and have a look at this soil, this is our planting mix, so it's got a bit of everything in it. It's been hydrated today, so it's not dry, but on a hot day it will dry out because the sun rays, shine on it and just, completely dehydrate it, evaporates. Now, the mulch on that side there, that's the bean straw. You can see I've already applied a thin layer there. It's about 50 mil thick. It's compacted. Now, that's another thing to talk about shortly, but when you don't put mulch on your bed, and the microbes that actually live within this soil here, they get dehydrated and they heat up too much, and it gets to the point where they actually stop activating. Without moisture, there's no life. So we're talking about not only plants, we're talking about microbes, bacteria, the good bacteria, even bad bacteria, fungi and things alike. So the aim is to give it a blanket and protect it. Now, during the cooler days of the year, you don't have to worry about it so much because the temperatures aren't high enough to dehydrate it, so you can afford to not have any mulch on there. If you've already got mulch from the summer period, that's fine, it's not going to hurt it. In fact, I've got mulch in other parts of these beds where it's been there for about a year and it's still fine, and the soil will still activate well. You just don't have to hydrate it as much. Now, bean straw is what I use. Really? Is this what it's about? You? Mate? You want to tickle? All right. I love you too, mate. Just, go away. Come on, people are watching now. Go this way. Go, Cara. Cara, what are you doing? She was sticking her head into the netting. Come on, please. All right. Doggy hour up. These are my puppies, you know that? This is Cara, this is Vader, and Vader he's a terror. He's a jealous boy. He likes to be tickled all the time, and Cara's a sook. Oh, Vader, please, stop. Oh, don't! You're jealous. Oh, this is what happens. I've only got two hands. Sit. Stay. Stop. All right, now hassle her. That's it. Chew her front leg off. Come on, chew it off. Chew her back leg off. One of the legs. Just chew him. Get her. That's it. Get him. Come on, please. Sorry, folks. Well, remember the topic, eh? Mulch, not puppies. All right, if I stand up, I'll stop. All right, settle down. Okay. Vader, no more. No more. So mulch, I don't know where I was, but anyway, we'll get back to the soil. The microbes in the soil need a blanket. In the winter period, you don't have to worry about it so much. Hey, go. That's it, go away. Yeah, go to him. Hassle him, go. So putting the mulch down will actually protect your plants and help you help your plants from dehydrating. Now, there's a very important, yeah, all right, forget about me. Sorry about that, folks. I just had to show my authority. He's sitting and she's sitting like a good girl. She's not impressed about it. Stay. All right, show me your authority in front of everybody. So mulch your garden, but now pine bark, I mentioned that earlier. Pine bark is great because it's a light wood as opposed to red gum chips. Red gum chips is a lot denser, so it takes a lot longer to break down. And what I mean by breaking down is the microbes actually activate the mulch. They actually get into it and inoculate themselves and start using that as a feeding source. So pine bark is good, but you need to have an ungraded mulch. You don't want all large pieces, and you don't want fines like a Yuki mulch because that itself will break down too quickly. So you want the large and small texture, where in this case here, I'm just using bean straw, and I really really like bean straw. It's not too light, doesn't blow away like sugar cane, and it's not too heavy or stringy like pea straw, which can get a little bit difficult, and you've got no peas growing. Well, in this case, beans growing. Now, applying your mulch, you can do it in a couple of ways. And the way I like doing it is very late, making sure the bale of straw that I'm using, the bean straw, has aged. It's actually activated with microbes in it, and in some cases, if you're lucky enough, worms. So we're going to go check out the little pile I got over there from last year and see how it's looking. Now, you kids want to come along? You want to come? Come. I've got bales of straw here, and they've been sitting here for a while. You can see they're decaying away. Well, actually breaking down, they've been activated. Now, it's rained on, it's dried up. I had a bale on top here, and that's the one that I've applied earlier, and then you've seen it already, and that's why there's moisture there, because it was sitting on top of the other one. So I haven't touched these. These are actually infused together. Let's see if I can pull it apart. Now, there's moisture running down the middle there, and look, already, worms. There are worms everywhere. So worms just magically appear. Look at this, worms down here. They're just disappearing in there. But anyway, what we're going to do is pull this apart and start applying it, and we'll have a good look inside and see what's going on. Okay. Folks, I'll make it look easy. It's about 45 kilos, you know that. Now, when you buy mulch from your local garden centre, it may be in one of those shrink wraps. Most likely, it may have a little bit of moisture, not a lot. This is a real sharp knife, isn't it, eh? Not a lot of moisture in it. And you can see this one here is dry, and here it's quite moist. Now, I'm going to show you the difference between the two when it comes to working the mulch into the garden bed, because you can apply it dry if you like. In existing beds with plants in it, it's not recommended. Well, I don't recommend it because it's a lot more difficult, and you'll see what I mean by applying it and more difficult. So when you pull it apart, because these are compressed, when they're actually processed, they're quite compressed by the machine, and sitting there for over a year now. See that? The mycelium's kicked in already because it's hydrated a few times and dehydrated again. Now that, if you're going to try and layer that into your garden bed, it's going to be really difficult with existing beds, existing plants I should say. On a new garden bed, when you've set it up and you've got your soil in there and it's all ready for planting, get your mulch down first, like this stuff here, and you don't have to worry about it being hydrated, and then go back and plant all the plants you want to put in there. Now, it depends on what you're planting. If you're doing English box hedging and things like that, get your plants in first, then put your mulch around it. But here, you've got to pull it apart, and don't mind all that powdery stuff. And to spread it around like this, it's just difficult. I find it difficult. It sort of sits, you know, it's a bit hard to get it in between the plants and all things like that. So what I like to do, and I've taken on too much here to show you, let's just put some down, let's get this string out of the way, is actually pull it apart in a wheelbarrow like this. Maybe not all of it at once, maybe work half a bag or a bale at once, but look at it when you hydrate it. Come and look at this. This is activated. Look at this. How good is this stuff? It's alive. Let me get into it better. We had some worms in here earlier on. They've gone running. If we spread it out in the garden bed, we'll probably see them a bit better. See, now that it's wet, it's so easy to spread out, just like that. Now, the bale that I got earlier that was on top was a lot more activated than this one here at the moment. Let me just get this dry stuff out of the way. Let's work our way through it. Look at it. It's just gorgeous, really is. It's soft, it's alive, it's full of microbes and lots of worms in here as well. And you can spread it a lot easier. So I'm getting all the wet stuff out of the way first. No, in fact, you know what? Just do this. Just break it all up in a wheelbarrow. That's what I did earlier. Just break it all up. So pull it apart like that in layers. You want to get it all loose. You don't want to compact it like that. Yeah, when you hydrate it, it'll loosen up, but the purpose here is to be able to spread it more efficiently and not get thick spots and thin spots. Now, with pine bark and other types of mulch, it really depends what type you're getting there. Sometimes you don't have to go like this, and sometimes the mulch has actually been chopped down to a finer grade for yourself as well, like a sugar cane. It might be a lot smaller in pieces. I haven't bought any for a long time, as you can tell. So have a look at the mulch you're buying. When you open it up, if it's really stringy like this, pull it apart first if you can, before you get into your garden bed. Unless you're creating a pathway, then you can actually just put slabs down like that and walk over the top of that. And as you walk on it, it'll start to break it up and loosen up on its own. That interlocking is great for matting, suppresses the weeds. So if you've got seed in the ground, it just won't germinate as readily. And at the end of the day, it actually puts the life back into the soil. It protects the life in your soil, I should say, and it feeds the life in the soil. And that's what it's all about here, folks. You know that. Because if you haven't got any life in the soil, then what are you relying on? Artificial fertilising. And we know all about that stuff, don't we? How good it is for your soil. Well, it isn't. And if it's not good for your soil, how can it be good for you? But that's another topic for another time. Okay, look at that. Look how beautiful that is. Nice and fluffy. Now, again, still, I can't spread this on, so what we do, get the hose on it. All ready for action we are here. And if you do decide to apply it dry, you really, really need a hydrator. And that's what I was saying earlier before I got interrupted by the dogs, is that when you're actually watering a garden bed, mulch can work to a great benefit, but it could also be quite have a quite negative effect on your garden bed. And what I mean by that is this. So like I'm watering now the mulch, say that's in my garden bed. In fact, let's do it before we go and finish off this. Let's get some dry mulch. We've got some here. Let's put some there now too, all right? And I've seen this done. I've seen this happen a lot of times. I've done it myself sometimes. Water it. Looks nice and wet, doesn't it? Let's see if it's wet underneath. Dry. Completely dry underneath still. So when you're hydrating it, you literally need to hydrate it to the point where it becomes like a soggy sponge. So you go over it, let it sit for a second, let it absorb. Stop, inspect, still dry underneath. So it hasn't even hit the soil yet, folks. This is my point about dry mulch. So when you apply it into your garden bed, you literally have to go over it a couple of times. And the difference is, when it's completely hydrated, have a look at this. See that, how soggy that is? That's how you want it. You want it like that. And yes, it's going to dry out during the hot days, but the aim here is to make sure that you've hydrated it so that when you rehydrate, you don't forget to water it for too long a period, and it doesn't take that much effort. Look at the worm just popped up there. So, and that's the beautiful thing when you've got mulch that's activated like this. It's so much full of life. You're putting it back into the soil. Now these worms are going to populate in here. They're going to start breeding more microbes for us and breaking it all down. Look at this, it's dry as a bone still underneath. We haven't finished hydrating, so this is how I like to do it. It takes a little bit longer, but at the end of the day, it's a lot easier to spread and you get a proper covering over the top. You know what I like about the mulch as well, folks? Is this, when you wash your hands, they should be super clean. Look at that. See that? All right, we're going to turn this over like we're kneading dough. So we've got water at the bottom as a reservoir. See that water down there? That's good. Get all the dry stuff in there and work your way through it. Look at this, we've got dry stuff again. Oh, we've got a big piece underneath here. It's been sitting in the water, look at that. Breaking up beautifully. A little bit more, folks. This is what you got to do if you're going to use mulch in your garden bed. Like I said, apply it dry when there are no plants, or sit there for hours trying to pull it apart and mat it through. Or hydrate it like this. And don't worry, you don't get dirty. Or put gloves on if you're worried about that. All right, now we spread. Large pieces. Oh, snail. Empty snail. Eradicate Eco works every time. So about 50 mil to 100 mil. When it's wet, 50 mil is all you need to put on because it's already sort of semi-matted down. But if you're going to put it on dry, put it on thicker because it will compact. You can see how it's sunken down a bit. I know I've taken some out, but it has actually dropped a bit. And then just throw it into your garden bed and spread it around. Beautiful blanket, keeps them nice and warm, keeps them hydrated, as long as you remember to hydrate the mulch, and it feeds the bacteria at the same time, folks. And you know what, it actually looks good too. Unlike me with my little beanie on today because it's bloody cold again. Mulch, no mulch. You can see it's almost like they're naked. These are naked plants because there's no covering over the top. Now, the other thing about protecting your soil, if you don't want to put mulch down for whatever the reason you don't like it, you need to have a good foliage covering over the soil, over the garden bed. For example, the bed over there, which is a raised bed, you can see from here, that bed there's got lots of plants inside, so the sun rays don't actually hit the soil. So we've got that protection going on there for the microbes and the life of the soil and the moisture, obviously. So if you don't have a lot of covering, and you can see I've cleaned these beds, what you're looking at the moment. These were cleaned out earlier this morning. I've got some lettuce that I've just cut back. And this soil, here's an example. Have a look at this. I haven't cleaned this bed yet. You can see how difficult it is. This is what it looks like when you discard a bed and leave it for a long time. I stuck in some old seedling pumpkins that I've got over there. They struggle. They struggle because I need to mulch it. I haven't checked this soil underneath. Dry, look at it. Just dry there. I've watered it here and it's dry still. This needs a serious covering. See how it's a little bit light colour? So if you go down a bit, you get a little bit of moisture, but there's no life in this soil. I haven't added anything to this. I literally just stuck them in there like that. So that's what happens to your soil. It becomes dead and only the weeds will grow in that stuff. So this will get cleaned out and it'll end up looking like what you see on this side here. Nice and clean. It doesn't crust over. Now, before I cleaned it, we had lots of foliage in here, so there wasn't a lot of sun shining on it. But now that I've taken the foliage off and I've got a lot of gaps in between, I'm going to fill them in with more plants. This is going to get mulched up, as is that bed over there going to get mulched up. So they're all going to get a top dressing now, and that's what you've got to do. It is summer. Let's expect this warm weather to come, unless you live in an area that's already hot. Lucky you. And then you can have a beautiful garden. Let's see if these ones grow now. I still haven't finished my hothouse, by the way. I know you've noticed it. It's just me that I was about to do it and it got really hot and I said, bugger this. So I stayed inside. I did a little bit of watering, that's about it. And now that it came cold, I thought, now I've got the energy to clean the garden bed, so I still haven't done it. So that's going to get done. Stay tuned, wait for that one to happen. In the meantime, mulch your garden beds. Pick your favourite mulch, hydrate it if it's a straw, give it about 50 to 100 ml layer thickness, no more than that, and make sure you keep it hydrated as well, and get some worms into the garden bed as well if you like. If you haven't fertilised, put your feet underneath before you top dress with the mulch. And all those wonderful fertilisers like our superfood, folks, as I mentioned already, our 6 kilo is going to go offline by the 15th of January, I've been told, that's right. So after the 15th, you won't be able to order it online for shipping. So if you want to get yourself that and you love the product, order it now. It's heavily discounted. Take advantage of that before the prices go up. And once they go up, we can't bring it back down, and shipping won't be available for the large bags or the 6 kilo, like the 18 kilo that's gone offline now, unfortunately. It's all at vasilisgarden.com, and the small sizes are always available, and you can click and collect them if you're in Victoria, and one day soon maybe in another state, you never know. Check out my website, our website, vasilisgarden.com. I've got my own personal one too, by the way. Maresi.